Hi, I'm Micah, product manager here at Splunk, and today I'm going to walk you through installing Edge Processor on-prem. There's two parts to this. The first one we're going to look at is installing the control plane. This is setting up that version of Enterprise that's included, and you can download as a tar file from the preview page. That will, when you install it and set it up, it will have in there a data management application that is essentially the control plane, has the management services associated with it, and that gets set up pretty easily. It's just like installing Enterprise normally. There's one extra step that I'll show you. The second part is once that's set up, then we're going to define an edge processor and then use the auto-generated script that it creates to install an edge processor instance on a separate VM. So we're going to first look at this part, and then once that's set up on another VM, we'll look at this one. Okay, so you can see this is the two VMs that I have. The first one will be as the standalone search head. That's where we'll install Enterprise. I have already copied over to my opt folder that tar file from the preview page. And first step will be to untar that and then run Splunk and get things going. But before I do that, I just want to note that there are a few ports that I've already opened up that I know will be needed. And so just giving a quick view of those, 9997 is the for S2S for the edge processors to provide information to this management and control plane about their own logs, help with debugging, troubleshooting, as well as just different stats to help show the health. 8089 is just general management port that's used, and then 8000 for the web UI that I know I'm going to need in advance. Okay, so first step. That'll create the subfolder. And then once that's done, then we're going to create the Splunk user and then run Splunk for the first time. Okay, that finished. Let's go ahead and create the Splunk user we'll use. We have to run Splunk as a non-root user. There's some components that are installed that'll be running that they will not work if you run it as root. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, now that I've added the Splunk user and we've expanded the tar file, I also want to make sure to give ownership to this user I've just added, that Splunk folder that's been created. And now we will go ahead and start Splunk for the first time after I switch over to be that Splunk user. Now that's set up, one more thing we do want to do is enable Splunk to be listening on that port 9997, so that ultimately when we set up the edge processor, it will be able to establish communication. And again, we've already opened up the ports in the firewall, so we should be good there. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to log into the web UI and navigate to the data management application. There are a few steps that still need to be done in order to turn things on. By default, the management services are not enabled on Splunk. And in the UI, it'll give me a initial configuration screen that I can go through. Okay, this is the first time setup experience. Just click that. This value is going to be what my edge processors end up using when they connect to this management plane. So I'm going to use the IP address 8089, and then this will prompt me to restart Splunk, which we'll do. All right, now that I've restarted Splunk, you can see there's the data management application. I will go back to that. Once I've landed here, you'll see that there's this prompt to sync the source types. So the source types that are on register with an edge processor, those are going to come from what you have installed on this management server. And so if you want to see what's currently there, this is just a bare install. So it's just the default set of things. Otherwise, you could install a TA, add some other stuff. Having done that, I will trigger the sync source type. This is seeded the management service so that all these source types will then be known and the line breaking rule associated with it for these edge processors that I will create. So we'll go ahead and create one now. So I could choose the default destination. I'll leave it as pointing to this management server. And then I will, normally you'd use certificates, set these up in a secure environment if that's what you need to do. For demo purposes, I'm turning them off. You'll see that it creates this script I can use. Now, I've also just used this toggle to disable the certificate validation so that when this curl command and down below, when it's going to talk to the server, it's not concerned about checking the certificate of the server. That's just for convenience. All right, with that in place, let's now log in to my other VM that I have running, and we'll install and set up an edge processor. I'm going to paste that script and then run it, and then we'll see it register the edge processor back on the management service. This failure is just, because the file already exists, so I can ignore that. Anyways, it should be up and starting to connect pretty soon, so I'll go back here. In fact, there it's already connected and ready to start to have a pipeline. So let's go back. I will create a pipeline. Let's try this one. Okay, just based on this template, I have this pipeline that I can use. I will go ahead and save that pipeline, give it a name. Set the destination. I forgot to do that earlier. So it's going to be sending to the same management server. Normally I'd have it go to some indexers or some other location that I have. So let's save that. Let's go ahead and deploy it to that edge processor. We'll go back and we'll see that it is pending, and pretty soon we'll see that it has then been applied to this edge processor. I already have a forwarder that's set up sending data to that VM, that IP address, and so we should also start to see some data flowing through. Okay, so data is flowing, and then as I go on, I continue to monitor that. Looks like there might be an error. It's probably just temporary, briefly, as it works things out. But if I did want to know what was going on, I could either go and look at the debug logs here or look at the history. There's also, on this edge processor page, there's this troubleshooting dashboard that has a lot of information that is super useful as you're starting to set things up. And I can start to see what might be going on and if there's an issue that requires further investigation. Okay, it looks like it was a brief temporary issue that has resolved itself. Okay, so what you've seen so far is setting up the management server, enabling the data management services that come with this data management application, and then installing and setting up an edge processor that connects to that management service. We've deployed a pipeline. We have data flowing through. I briefly looked at some of the troubleshooting capabilities that are part of the application. And then one last thing to mention is we do have integration with Splunk Enterprise. So those management services that are running, if there was an issue with those in the back end, that would also show up here. Looks like those are good. It's just my VM's got a little bit undersized. Thanks for watching.